Tonight, we're not just going to talk about the brain. We're going to rummage around in its attic, peek under its bed, and figure out why it does the gloriously weird things it does. This isn't a dry lecture. It's a backstage tour of the most complex object in the known universe, the 3-pound universe between your ears. Get comfortable. Let's get curious. Let's start with the phenomenon that turns our conventional understanding of willpower and honesty on its head. It's the brutal biological reality that exhaustion breeds truth. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive manager and social filter, is metabolically expensive to run. It's the seat of impulse control, social nuance, and the curated persona you present to the world. As cognitive resources deplete through sustained wakefulness, especially in the late hours, this region effectively powers down. What emerges isn't a diminished you, but a less mediated one. The social guardrails fall away. This is why profound confessions, raw emotional exchanges, and uncomfortably honest assessments so often occur deep into the night. It's not the darkness or the alcohol, though they can be cofactors. It's the simple fact your brain lacks the energy to sustain the fiction. The facade is a luxury of a well-rested mind. In a state of fatigue, the core, unfiltered narratives and feelings rise to the surface because the mental publicist has gone home. Now, consider the persistent mental itch of an unfinished task. This isn't a personal failing. It's a cognitive mechanism known as the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are wired to maintain a kind of psychic tension around incomplete loops, a relic of an era when unresolved needs, such as securing shelter or finding water, were matters of survival. This open loop consumes background cognitive resources, creating a low-grade anxiety that manifests as nagging thoughts. The elegant solution is externalization. By writing the task down on a list or entering it into a trusted system, you perform a cognitive handoff. Your brain interprets this act as a closure of the loop, freeing up the mental RAM previously dedicated to reminding you. The task hasn't been completed, but the responsibility for tracking it has been transferred. This is why to-do lists are more than organizational tools. They are psychological relief valves. You will experience a peculiar trick of perception soon after learning something novel. Upon encountering a new word, concept, or even a specific car model, you will suddenly see it everywhere. This frequency illusion, often called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, is a testament to your brain's role as an aggressive filter. To prevent overload, your sensory system discards the vast majority of data as irrelevant noise. When you learn something new and tag it as significant, your reticular activating system, a kind of neurological gatekeeper, temporarily adjusts the filter. It now allows instances of that thing to pass through to conscious awareness. The world hasn't changed. Your perceptual settings have. The information was always present in your environment, but you have now granted your brain permission to see it, creating a powerful and often unsettling illusion of synchronicity. Of all your senses, smell holds the most direct pathway to memory and emotion, while visual and auditory data take a relayed route through the thalamus. Olfactory signals have a privileged, unmediated connection. Smell receptors send information directly to the olfactory bulb, which has intimate, immediate links to the amygdala, your emotional center, and the hippocampus, crucial for memory formation. This architectural shortcut means a scent can trigger a visceral, emotionally charged memory before your conscious mind has even identified the odor itself. The smell of rain on dry concrete, a specific perfume, or a childhood home's aroma doesn't just remind you of the past, it temporarily immerses you in it, complete with the emotional state you were in at the time. It is the most efficient time machine your biology possesses. Counterintuitively, minor mistakes can enhance your likability, a principle known as the pratfall effect. Individuals perceived as highly competent can seem intimidating or untouchable, creating social distance. A small, relatable blunder, spilling a drink, stumbling over words, forgetting a name, serves as a humanizing signal. It demonstrates fallibility and reduces the perceived threat level, making you appear more approachable and authentic. This isn't a call for clumsiness, but an understanding that the pursuit of flawless perfection can be socially isolating. The brain of an observer interprets a minor pratfall as evidence that you are part of the shared, imperfect human experience, thereby strengthening social bonds and building trust. The neural foundation for empathy resides in specialized cells called mirror neurons. These neurons fire not only when you perform an action, but also, remarkably, when you observe someone else performing that same action. Watching someone sip coffee, lift a weight, or wince in pain triggers a muted internal simulation of that experience within your motor and sensory cortices. This mirroring mechanism is the biological bedrock of feeling your pain. It allows us to understand others' intentions and emotions by internally modeling their state. This system explains why yawns are contagious, why we flinch at the sight of an injury, and why we can be moved to tears by a fictional character's plight. Our brains are constantly, subtly practicing being someone else. You chronically overestimate how much others notice your appearance and behavior, a bias called the spotlight effect. As the constant protagonist of your own narrative, you assume you hold a similarly central position in the narratives of those around you. This leads to disproportionate anxiety about minor gaffes, outfit choices, or verbal slips. Empirical studies consistently show this estimation is wildly inflated. In one classic experiment, participants wearing embarrassingly conspicuous shirts believed nearly half of a room would notice. The actual figure was less than a quarter, and attention was fleeting. The liberating, if sobering reality is that others are far less focused on you than you presume. They are preoccupied with their own performances under their own imagined spotlights. A profound and frustrating cognitive paradox is the Dunning-Kruger effect. It describes a situation in which individuals with low ability at a task suffer from illusory superiority, mistakenly assessing their capability as much higher than it actually is. The core of the problem is metacognition, the ability to think about one's own thinking. The skills required to be competent at a task are often the same skills needed to accurately evaluate competence in that domain. Therefore, a novice lacks the very framework necessary to perceive the depth of their ignorance. Conversely, true experts, acutely aware of the vast complexity and their own limitations, often underestimate their relative ability, a phenomenon adjacent to imposter syndrome. True wisdom begins with the humbling recognition of complexity. Willpower is not an infinite virtue, but a finite physiological resource, subject to depletion, a state termed decision fatigue. Every choice, from the mundane to the monumental, draws from this same pool of mental energy. As you make successive decisions throughout the day, this resource diminishes, leading to a degradation in the quality of subsequent choices. You become more susceptible to impulsivity, irritation, and avoidance of effortful thought. This is why consequential decisions made late in the day are often poorer. Recognizing this, many high performers automate trivial choices, such as wardrobe and meals, to conserve cognitive bandwidth for decisions that truly matter. Your willpower is a muscle that tires. It must be managed strategically. Our brains are cognitive misers, and one of their most pervasive shortcuts is the halo effect. This is the tendency for an overall impression of a person, often based on a single prominent trait such as physical attractiveness, perceived intelligence, or charm, to influence our judgments of other unrelated traits. We unconsciously assume the attractive person is also kinder, more competent, and more trustworthy. This bias also operates in reverse, the horns effect, where one negative trait casts a shadow over all others. This mental shortcut explains the disproportionate power of first impressions and the difficulty of changing someone's mind once a holistic judgment, positive or negative, has been cemented. It is an efficient but deeply flawed heuristic. Your brain is asymmetrically wired when it comes to gains and losses. Loss aversion is the principle that the psychological pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equivalent value. This isn't a minor preference, it's a deep evolutionary imprint. For our ancestors, losing a food source or shelter could mean death, while gaining an extra portion merely increased comfort. In the modern context, this bias drives irrational behavior, holding plummeting stocks too long, remaining in unfulfilling relationships, or sticking with a suboptimal status quo simply to avoid the feeling of loss. It's the engine behind marketing tactics like free trials, which frame cancellation not as a choice, but as a loss of access. When your actions conflict with your beliefs, it creates a state of psychological tension known as cognitive dissonance. The human mind finds this inconsistency deeply uncomfortable and will employ a suite of rationalizations to resolve it. Rather than changing the behavior, which is often difficult, the brain will adeptly adjust the belief system. The smoker downplays health risks while emphasizing stress relief. The buyer of an overpriced item invents justifications about superior quality or service. We are not impartial observers of our own lives. We are skilled, often unconscious lawyers building a case for why our choices were correct, all to maintain a coherent, positive self-narrative. This is self-deception as a stabilizing mechanism. The power of belief extends even into the realm of sleep. Research into placebo sleep demonstrates that simply believing you had a good night's rest can enhance cognitive performance the following day, independent of actual sleep metrics. In controlled studies, participants who were told falsely they had enjoyed high-quality sleep performed better on attention and cognitive tests than those who slept equally but were given neutral or negative feedback. This underscores that the story you tell yourself about your state of recovery isn't merely narrative. It triggers real physiological and psychological responses. Your mindset can directly influence your perceived and actual functional capacity, for better or worse. In a crisis, the presence of others can paradoxically reduce the likelihood that any single individual will offer help. This is the bystander effect. Responsibility becomes diffused across the crowd. Each person assumes someone else will act, leading to collective inaction. The critical intervention is to break this diffusion by individualizing the responsibility. If you need help, do not appeal to the crowd. Instead, lock eyes with one specific person, point, and issue a clear, direct command. You, in the blue jacket, call 911 now. This assigns unambiguous responsibility, bypassing the groupthink and triggering a personal duty to respond. Understanding this dynamic isn't just academic, it's a potentially life-saving piece of knowledge. Expectations possess a tangible, reality-warping power, illustrated by the Pygmalion effect. In foundational research, teachers were informed that randomly selected students were on the cusp of significant intellectual growth. Over the school year, these students, despite being no different initially, showed markedly greater gains in IQ. The mechanism was behavioral. The teachers' elevated expectations unconsciously influenced their interactions. They provided more warmth, more challenging material, more detailed feedback, and more opportunities to respond. The students, in turn, rose to meet these expectations. This principle applies far beyond the classroom. The expectations held by managers, parents, and even ourselves can serve as a blueprint for performance. You are blind to far more of your visual world than you realize, a phenomenon called inattentional blindness. When your attention is laser-focused on a specific task, counting basketball passes, reading dense text, scanning a crowd for a friend, your brain's filtering mechanisms can cause you to miss fully visible but unexpected objects. The famous invisible gorilla experiment is the classic demonstration. This isn't a failure of vision, but of attention, which acts as a bottleneck. Your conscious perception is not a comprehensive video feed. It is a highly curated reconstruction that prioritizes task-relevant information and discards the rest. You see what you attend to, not everything that hits your retina. The first piece of information you receive in a negotiation or valuation acts as an anchor, disproportionately influencing all subsequent judgments. This anchoring bias demonstrates that our brains are poor at absolute valuation and instead rely heavily on initial reference points. If a salesman suggests a car is worth $30,000, even an absurdly high figure, your subsequent counteroffers and your perception of a good deal will revolve around that number. If the anchor had been $20,000, your entire negotiating range would shift downward. This cognitive bias is exploited in retail, with high manufacturers' suggested retail prices, and in salary discussions. Whoever sets the first anchor wields significant psychological power. Labor begets love, a principle known as the IKEA effect. We place a disproportionately high value on objects we have partially assembled or created ourselves. This isn't mere sentimentality. It's a cognitive bias rooted in effort justification and a sense of ownership. The struggle and time invested create a narrative of achievement, and the finished product becomes an extension of our self-concept. This applies to furniture, homemade meals, DIY projects, and even business ventures. Neurologically, seeing something you've built activates brain regions associated with the self. Consequently, criticism of the object feels like a personal critique. The value inflation is irrational but powerful, fostering deep loyalty and attachment. In group settings, individual effort often diminishes, a tendency called social loafing. When working collectively toward a goal in which individual contributions are pooled and not easily identifiable, people naturally exert less effort than when working alone. The psychological rationale is a diffusion of responsibility and a reduced sense of personal accountability. This is evident in tug-of-war teams, where per-person pull force decreases as team size increases, and in poorly managed group projects. The antidote is to make individual contributions identifiable, measurable, and subject to evaluation. Accountability counteracts the brain's subconscious calculation that someone else will pick up the slack. Your memory of an experience is not a balanced average, but a skewed summary governed by the peak-end rule. When recalling an event, your brain heavily weights two data points: the most intense moment, the peak, whether positive or negative, and the final moment, the end. A vacation with a miserable flight and mediocre days, but a spectacular farewell dinner will be remembered fondly. A painful medical procedure that ends gradually and gently will be recalled as less awful than one that ends abruptly at the moment of highest pain, even if the total pain was less. We don't remember experiences. We remember the story our brain constructs from these salient snapshots. This has profound implications for healthcare, customer service, and personal life design. Your brain is an imperfect interpreter of your own physiological arousal. The misattribution of arousal occurs when you incorrectly attribute the source of heightened physiological arousal, increased heart rate, sweaty palms, rapid breathing, to the present context. In the seminal bridge study, men who crossed a fear-inducing, swaying suspension bridge were more likely to later call an attractive woman they met on the other side, misattributing their residual fear arousal to romantic attraction. The body's signals for anxiety, excitement, and fear are similar. Your brain, seeking a cause, will latch onto the most plausible narrative in your environment, sometimes with significant emotional consequences. A powerful strategy for building rapport is to ask someone for a favor. This counterintuitive tactic, noted by Benjamin Franklin and now known as the Ben Franklin effect, works through cognitive dissonance. If a person does a favor for you, especially if they were initially neutral or negative toward you, their brain must reconcile the action with their attitude. To resolve the dissonance of, "I helped someone I dislike," the mind often adjusts the attitude. "I must like them, or I wouldn't have helped." The act of investment, however small, fosters liking. It's a strategic inversion of typical social dynamics, where we do favors for those we like. Here, doing a favor can create the liking. Familiarity, in the absence of negative associations, breeds fondness. This mere exposure effect means we develop a preference for things, sounds, images, people, simply because we have been repeatedly exposed to them. The novel becomes familiar, and the familiar is subconsciously tagged by the brain as safe and predictable. This is the psychological engine behind advertising repetition, the development of musical tastes, and even initial attraction. It explains why you might gravitate toward people who remind you of family or friends. In a world of potential threats, the known offers comfort. Our preferences are shaped not just by inherent quality, but by the sheer frequency of benign encounters. As you transition into sleep, your brain generates bursts of activity called sleep spindles. These are not just neural static, they serve critical functions. First, they act as a sensory gate, helping to block out external noises that might otherwise disrupt sleep, akin to internal noise-canceling headphones. Second, and perhaps more importantly, they are involved in memory consolidation. Spindles facilitate the transfer of information from the hippocampus, the brain's temporary filing cabinet, to the neocortex for long-term storage. The quantity and quality of sleep spindles are correlated with learning efficiency and general cognitive ability. That buzzy, drifting feeling as you fall asleep is a sign of this essential cognitive maintenance beginning. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately forgotten your purpose? This common experience, the doorway effect, is not a sign of failing memory, but a feature of your brain's efficient filing system. Research indicates that passing through a doorway or other physical boundary creates an event boundary in the mind. Your brain uses these boundaries to segment continuous experience into discrete episodes. To optimize resources for the new environment, it clears the working memory slate associated with the previous room. This mental refresh is advantageous for context switching, but also discards the transient thought that brought you there in the first place. It is not forgetfulness. It is your brain decluttering its temporary workspace, inadvertently throwing away the memo you hadn't saved to long-term storage yet. The modern marketplace offers a staggering array of choices, which we assume leads to greater satisfaction. The paradox of choice reveals the opposite is often true. When presented with an overwhelming number of options, be it jams, retirement plans, or career paths, we experience choice paralysis. The cognitive load of comparing numerous alternatives becomes burdensome. Furthermore, the abundance raises the stakes. Each choice feels like a potential missed opportunity for a perfect alternative, leading to anxiety during selection and regret afterward. Our brains, evolved for environments with limited options, interpret excessive choice not as liberation, but as a threat of error. Strategic limitation, or creating personal constraints, can be a more reliable path to contentment and decisive action. Your memory exhibits a predictable bias in serial recall, known as the primacy and recency effects. In a list, speech, or sequence of events, you are most likely to remember items at the beginning and the end. The primacy effect occurs because initial items receive undivided attention and are effectively transferred to long-term memory. The recency effect happens because the final items are still fresh in your short-term memory buffer. The information in the middle suffers from interference. It is neither the first nor the last, and thus is often lost. This serial position curve has implications for learning, persuasion, and presentation. To be remembered, key information must be positioned at the frontiers of an experience. Most of us possess an inherent optimism bias, a tendency to believe that our personal future will be better than the average, that we are less likely to experience negative events like illness, divorce, or accidents. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's a systematic cognitive distortion with neural correlates. While we may acknowledge general statistics, we downplay their application to ourselves. This bias serves as a psychological immune system, motivating people to undertake challenging endeavors, from starting a business to building a relationship. However, its shadow side leads to underestimating risks, neglecting preventive measures, and poor contingency planning. It is a double-edged sword, a necessary engine for progress and a potential blind spot to danger. Your memories are not stable, objective recordings. They are dynamic reconstructions, vulnerable to the false memory effect. Each time you recall an event, you are not pulling a perfect file from a cabinet. You are rebuilding the scene, and in the process, it can be subtly altered. New information, suggestions, or even your current emotional state can be woven into the neural tapestry of the past. Landmark experiments have shown it is possible to implant entirely false but vivid memories in individuals, such as being lost in a mall as a child. This malleability means your cherished, most detailed recollections may contain elements that never occurred. You are not an archivist of the past, but an active, if sometimes unreliable, narrator. We are remarkably susceptible to vague, generalized personality descriptions, a phenomenon termed the Barnum effect. Statements like, "You have a great need for others to like and admire you," or "You pride yourself on being an independent thinker," feel uniquely insightful. In reality, they are broad enough to apply to almost anyone. Our brains, craving coherence and self-understanding, eagerly accept these descriptions and fill in the blanks with our specific life details, creating a powerful illusion of accuracy. This effect is the foundation of astrology, many personality quizzes, and cold reading techniques. The insight doesn't come from the description, but from our own mind's collaborative effort to make it fit. After performing a virtuous act, we often grant ourselves subconscious license to indulge or behave less virtuously later. This is moral credentialing. Your brain maintains an ethical ledger and seeks balance in a perverse way. Eating a healthy salad may mentally justify a decadent dessert. Making a charitable donation could subtly increase the likelihood of being curt with a colleague. It's as if the conscious mind says, "I've proven I'm good," and the unconscious takes that as permission to relax its standards. This isn't conscious hypocrisy, but an automatic psychological mechanism that can undermine diets, budgets, and ethical consistency if left unexamined. Our decisions are irrationally influenced by past investments that cannot be recovered, known as the sunk cost fallacy. We continue an endeavor, sitting through a bad movie, pouring money into a failing project, staying in a toxic relationship, because we have already invested time, money, or effort. The rational approach would be to ignore these sunk costs and make decisions based solely on future prospects. However, our brains conflate persistence with consistency and hate admitting waste. We would rather throw good resources after bad than accept the initial loss, leading to a cycle of escalating commitment to a failing course of action. It is emotion, not economics, dictating the choice. When we study success, we typically make a critical error. We only look at the winners. This survivorship bias skews our understanding of cause and effect. For every billionaire dropout, there are countless others who dropped out and failed. By focusing only on the survivors, the successful companies, the thriving artists, the healthy centenarians, we ignore the invisible graveyard of those who shared the same attributes but did not survive due to luck, circumstance, or unseen factors. We then attribute success solely to the visible traits of the survivors, creating flawed formulas for achievement. A true understanding requires examining both successes and failures. We interpret our own behavior and others' behavior through different lenses, a distortion called the actor-observer bias. When we act, arrive late, lose our temper, we attribute the cause to situational factors. The traffic was horrible. I'm under immense stress. When someone else performs the same action, we are more likely to attribute it to their character. They're inconsiderate. They have a bad temper. This asymmetry exists because we have intimate access to our own internal context, but only observe others' external behavior. Recognizing this bias is fundamental to resolving conflict and cultivating genuine empathy. A deep-seated cognitive bias is the just world hypothesis. The need to believe the world is fundamentally fair, that people get what they deserve. This belief provides comfort and a sense of control. If we are good, we believe we will be safe from misfortune. The dark corollary is victim blaming. When witnessing tragedy, an assault, a poverty-stricken family, a disease, a part of the mind seeks to restore the just world narrative by subconsciously attributing some fault to the victim. It is a psychological defense against the terrifying randomness of existence. True compassion requires acknowledging that bad things can and do happen to good people through no fault of their own. Our fears are not perfectly calibrated to modern risks. They are shaped by deep evolutionary history. This is evident in phobic stimuli and ancestry. Humans readily develop intense instinctive fears of snakes, spiders, heights, and darkness, threats that were persistent and lethal over millions of years of evolution. Conversely, we do not instinctively fear statistically greater modern dangers, such as cars or electrical outlets. Our amygdala, the fear center, comes with prepared learning for ancestral threats. We have a neural head start to fear them, whereas fear of modern hazards must be learned cognitively. Your brain's threat detection software is running a very old, if partially outdated version. Introducing a strong external reward for an activity you already find intrinsically enjoyable can backfire. A paradox called the over-justification effect. When a child who loves drawing for fun starts receiving money for it, the brain can recategorize the activity from play, internally motivated, to work, externally motivated. If the external reward is later removed, the intrinsic motivation may have been eroded, and the activity is often abandoned. The lesson is profound for parenting, education, and personal passion. To preserve the pure joy of an activity, it is sometimes necessary to shield it from the pressure of monetization and external evaluation. We consistently believe that persuasive media, advertising, propaganda, fake news, affects others more than it affects us. This third-person effect creates a dangerous blind spot. We consume manipulative content while maintaining the illusion of our own invulnerability, attributing its influence to the more impressionable masses. This bias is a form of self-enhancement that protects our ego. The hard truth is that persuasive techniques are designed to work on universal human psychology. If a message is crafted to sway people, it is swaying you, even if subtly. Recognizing this is a critical step toward more mindful and critical media consumption. You have the power to consciously reinterpret your physiological state, a skill known as cognitive reframing. The physical symptoms of anxiety and excitement, racing heart, quickened breath, butterflies, are nearly identical. The label your mind applies dictates your experience. By deliberately reframing "I am nervous" to "I am excited," you are not engaging in empty positive thinking. You are performing a neurological hack, shifting your brain's resources from the threat-focused amygdala toward the opportunity-focused prefrontal cortex. You are redirecting arousal, not denying it. This practice grants you immense influence over your emotional and performance outcomes. Your brain is wired with a profound negativity bias. It is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. This was evolutionarily sound. Remembering the location of a predator, a negative, was more urgent for survival than remembering a berry patch, a positive. In modern life, this means a single criticism will overshadow 10 compliments. A negative event in a relationship carries more psychological weight than a positive one. Research suggests it takes about 5 positive interactions to repair the damage of one negative exchange. To counteract this default setting, you must consciously savor, linger on, and replay good experiences to etch them into long-term memory. Once you make a significant decision, your brain becomes its chief advocate. This choice-supportive bias leads you to retroactively emphasize the positives of your chosen path while downplaying its flaws. Simultaneously, you amplify the negatives of the roads not taken. After buying a car, you focus on its great mileage and downplay the cramped interior, while telling yourself the other model was too flashy. This isn't rational evaluation. It's your mind's PR campaign to protect you from regret and post-decision dissonance. It creates a comforting narrative of having made the best possible choice, promoting satisfaction but potentially blinding you to objective reassessment. The internet has fundamentally altered how we remember. The Google effect, or digital amnesia, describes our tendency to forget information we know is easily accessible online. Why memorize a fact, a phone number, or a historical date when you can search for it in seconds? Studies show we are more likely to remember where to find information than the information itself. Our brains are adapting, prioritizing transactive memory, knowing what information is stored externally and how to retrieve it, over rote internal storage. This isn't making us less intelligent. It is changing the nature of our intelligence from being encyclopedic to being adept at information management and navigation. We like to believe our decisions are logical, but more often they are guided by the affect heuristic. Our current feelings, affect, serve as a mental shortcut to judge risks and benefits. If you feel good, a new opportunity seems low risk and promising. If you feel anxious, the same opportunity appears fraught with danger. We do not evaluate and then feel. We feel and then use logic to justify that feeling. This explains why it is so difficult to argue someone out of a position they arrived at emotionally. To change a mind, you must first address the underlying feeling. Facts presented against that emotional tide will be dismissed. The presence of an audience impacts performance, a phenomenon called social facilitation. For simple or well-practiced tasks, an audience typically enhances performance, making you faster and more accurate. For complex or novel tasks, an audience impairs performance. The mechanism is arousal. The presence of others increases physiological arousal, which amplifies your dominant response, the most habitual reaction in that situation. For easy tasks, the dominant response is correct. For difficult tasks, the dominant response is often an error. Therefore, an audience makes experts look more expert and novices look more novice. Choose your conditions for optimal performance. In any negotiation, the party that states the first number establishes a psychological anchor that heavily influences the entire discussion. This anchoring in negotiations is one of the most robust findings in social psychology. Even an extreme or arbitrary opening number sets the range for all subsequent counteroffers. If you ask for a high salary, the negotiation revolves around that high figure. If you start low, you have already shifted the entire bargaining range downward. The initial anchor skews perceptions of what is reasonable. The tactical imperative is clear. Have the courage to set the first anchor and set it ambitiously to define the territory in your favor. Returning to the IKEA effect, we can explore its deeper neurological basis. Why does building a table make it part of your identity? Functional MRI studies show that when people view something they have created, it activates the medial prefrontal cortex, a key region associated with self-concept and self-referential thought. The object is no longer merely an external thing. Neurologically, it has been incorporated into the self's neural map. This is why criticism of your DIY project feels personal. The labor you invested didn't just build a bookcase. It built a neural connection between that object and your sense of who you are, leading to an inflated emotional valuation. We consistently take credit for our successes and deflect blame for our failures, a tendency known as the self-serving bias. When we succeed, we attribute it to our skill, intelligence, and effort. When we fail, we blame external factors, bad luck, unfair circumstances, or other people's actions. This bias protects our self-esteem and maintains motivation. However, its significant downside is that it stifles growth. If you never accept personal responsibility for failures, you cannot learn from them. Combating this requires deliberate, often uncomfortable introspection, a willingness to confront your own role in negative outcomes without damaging your core self-worth. Within cohesive, high-stakes groups, the desire for consensus can override critical thinking and moral judgment, leading to groupthink. Members self-censor dissenting opinions, pressure outliers to conform, and create an illusion of unanimous agreement. The group develops an inflated sense of its own morality and invulnerability, dismissing external warnings. Historical debacles like the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster are often analyzed through this lens. Counterintuitively, smarter, more cohesive groups can be more susceptible, as members place greater trust in the collective's perceived wisdom. The antidote involves structured dissent, appointing a dedicated devil's advocate, encouraging anonymous input, and deliberately seeking outside perspectives to challenge the internal echo chamber. Closely related to the Barnum effect is the Forer effect, which highlights our powerful craving for personalization. In a classic demonstration, students were given a generic, vague personality profile filled with universally applicable statements. When told it was tailored specifically for them, they rated its accuracy as remarkably high. This yearning to be seen as unique makes us interpret generality as specificity. Modern algorithms in marketing, streaming services, and social media exploit this masterfully, creating an illusion of unique curation while serving millions the same content. The feeling of being personally understood is a potent driver of engagement and loyalty, even when the underlying mechanism is impersonal and statistical. For a small number of individuals, the neural mechanism of empathy is so intense that it crosses into the realm of direct sensation. Mirror touch synesthesia is a condition where witnessing someone else being touched or experiencing an action triggers a palpable physical sensation in the observer's own body. Seeing a shoulder tapped feels like a tap on their shoulder. Watching a slap induces a wince of real discomfort. This occurs due to hyperconnectivity in the brain's mirror neuron and somatosensory systems, blurring the neurological boundary between self and other. It represents the extreme end of the empathic spectrum, providing tangible evidence that our sense of physical self is a constructed and permeable experience. Your memory can retain the core content of an event while completely losing the source of that information, an error called source misattribution, or the misattribution of memory. You might clearly remember a funny story from childhood, but incorrectly attribute it to your own experience, when, in fact, you heard it from a sibling repeatedly. The brain stores the memory's substance and its context, the source, as separate elements. Over time, the link between them can decay or detach. This is how family lore gets misassigned and why you can confidently remember telling someone something you only thought about telling them. Your memory is a compelling author, but a flawed librarian of its own citations. A strategically timed nap is a potent cognitive tool, but its effects are dictated by duration. The 10 to 20-minute power nap boosts alertness and motor learning by lightly refreshing the brain without entering deep sleep, avoiding grogginess. The 30 to 60-minute nap is often problematic, as it risks waking you from slow-wave deep sleep, resulting in sleep inertia, a period of impaired cognition and disorientation. The full 90-minute nap allows a complete sleep cycle, including REM sleep, which aids in creative problem-solving, emotional processing, and memory consolidation. Thus, napping is not monolithic. It is a precision intervention in which timing determines whether you get a quick refresh, a system setback, or a full mental reboot.
Under the right conditions, a crowd's collective judgment can be astonishingly accurate, a principle termed the wisdom of the crowds. The key is independence and diversity. When a large number of individuals make estimates or guesses independently, without influencing one another, their individual errors tend to cancel out. The collective average often converges on a figure far more accurate than most individual guesses. This underpins the efficacy of prediction markets, the pricing accuracy of free markets, and even the functionality of Google's search algorithms. It is a form of emergent intelligence that arises not from any single expert, but from the aggregation of many imperfect, independent judgments. Our minds have an irrational aversion to uncertainty, particularly concerning loss. The certainty effect describes our willingness to pay a disproportionate premium to eliminate a tiny residual risk, to move from 99% safe to 100% guaranteed. The psychological chasm between almost certain and completely certain is vast, far greater than the difference between, say, 90% and 95%. This explains why we buy overpriced extended warranties on inexpensive electronics or opt for insurance policies with zero deductibles at great cost. We are terrible at evaluating probabilistic risk in a linear fashion. Our fear of the unlikely but possible disaster leads us to make economically irrational decisions for the sake of perceived certainty.
You likely overestimate the commonality of your own opinions, habits, and beliefs, a cognitive bias known as the false consensus effect. If you enjoy a niche hobby, you assume more people share your interest than actually do. If you hold a political view, you believe it is more widespread than it is. This stems from two factors. First, we are naturally surrounded by people similar to us, our social bubble, creating a skewed sample. Second, our own reasoning feels so logical and self-evident that we project it onto others, assuming any reasonable person would agree. This bias is a primary source of social surprise and miscommunication, highlighting that your normal is not universal.
Emotions are socially contagious, a process known as emotional contagion. We unconsciously catch the feelings of those around us through subtle cues, facial microexpressions, body language, tone of voice, and even pheromonal signals. Your mirror neuron and limbic systems synchronize with others' emotional states. This is why a leader's calm can soothe a tense room, or a colleague's anxiety can spread through an office. It operates below conscious awareness, making you a node in a constant, silent network of emotional transmission. Understanding this allows you to be more mindful of the emotional environments you choose to inhabit and the signals you, yourself, are broadcasting. The window for forming a first impression is shockingly brief. Neuroscientific research indicates your brain makes a suite of snap judgments about a stranger's trustworthiness, competence, and likability within a mere 1/10 of a second. This lightning-fast assessment is driven by the ancient amygdala, which performs a rapid threat ally scan. While these initial impressions can be modified with time and contradictory information, they create a powerful anchor that colors all subsequent interactions. The conscious, rational mind builds its case on top of this primal, subconscious foundation. The unfair but biological truth
is that a significant portion of social judgment is decided before a single word is spoken. The connection between creation and self-identity runs deep. When you build or create something, the IKEA effect signifies more than just pride. It represents a literal expansion of your self-concept into the object. Neurologically, the effort and creativity invested forge a link between the creation and the brain's self-referential networks. This is why criticism of an artist's work or a gardener's plant can feel like a personal attack, and why destroying something you've made, even a sandcastle, evokes a sense of violation. The boundary between me and the things I have made is porous. Your creations are not merely possessions. They become externalized fragments of your internal narrative. Repeat a single word aloud dozens of times in rapid succession. You will experience semantic satiation, where the word temporarily loses its meaning and transforms into a bizarre string of sounds. This occurs due to neural fatigue in the specific pathway connecting the word's auditory form to its semantic meaning. The repetitive firing causes a kind of jam in the circuit, disrupting the automatic retrieval of meaning. It's a fascinating demonstration that language comprehension is a learned, active process reliant on fragile neural connections, not an inherent property of the sounds themselves. This effect can even be used therapeutically to diffuse anxiety-provoking words by stripping them of their associative power through repetition. In any list or sequence, the item that is distinct, the isolate, will be most easily remembered. This is the von Restorff effect, also known as the isolation effect. Your brain's memory systems are novelty detectors. A red word in a column of black text, a penguin among sparrows, or a sudden silence in a piece of music automatically receives prioritization for encoding into long-term memory. Novelty signals potential importance or danger, demanding cognitive resources. This principle is fundamental to effective study techniques, highlighting key terms, marketing, unique packaging, and narrative design, plot twists. To be remembered, you must strategically and meaningfully break the prevailing pattern. Your abstract social judgments are subtly but powerfully influenced by physical sensations, a concept called embodied cognition or haptic perception. Holding a warm cup of coffee can lead you to perceive a stranger as warmer, more generous, caring, than if you held an iced drink. Sitting in a hard chair can make you a more rigid negotiator than sitting in a soft one. The brain uses bodily experiences as metaphorical scaffolding for abstract thought. Physical warmth primes concepts of social warmth. Hardness primes concepts of strictness or stability. This reveals that your environment is not a neutral backdrop, but an active, silent participant in your social reasoning and decision-making processes. We perceive nothing in absolute terms. We perceive in contrasts. This contrast principle means our judgment of any stimulus is heavily influenced by what we experienced immediately before it. After lifting a heavy weight, a medium weight feels astonishingly light. A real estate agent showing a dilapidated house first makes the next, average house seem magnificent. A $100 bottle of wine on a menu makes the $50 bottle appear reasonably priced. Our brains are poor at objective calibration and are easily manipulated by the provided reference point. Awareness of this principle is crucial. Always question what you are being implicitly compared to, as it defines your entire scale of judgment. The counterpart to the positive Pygmalion effect is the damaging golem effect. Low expectations create a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. If a teacher, manager, or parent believes an individual is incapable, they will unconsciously act in ways that elicit and confirm that belief, offering less support, fewer challenges, and more negative feedback. The target individual, sensing these low expectations, internalizes the label, and their performance declines to match the predicted level. This tragic cycle squanders potential and is a powerful reminder that the expectations we hold for others and ourselves are not passive predictions. They are active scripts that influence behavior and outcome. You do not hear objective words. You hear interpretations filtered through your existing beliefs, a process called selective distortion. If you believe your colleague is competitive, their neutral question about your project timeline may sound like a veiled criticism. Your brain actively warps incoming information to fit your pre-existing mental model, protecting you from the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. This is why arguments based on facts often fail against deeply held beliefs. The facts themselves are distorted upon arrival to maintain the internal consistency of the listener's worldview. We are not objective auditors of reality. We are interpreters, and our biases write the translation guide. The Zeigarnik effect, which causes us to fixate on unfinished tasks, applies with particular ferocity to unresolved emotional situations, especially relationship breakups. A relationship that ends abruptly, without closure or a clear narrative, is the ultimate open loop for the brain. It will obsessively replay interactions, search for hidden meanings, and cling to hope in a desperate attempt to solve the puzzle and achieve cognitive closure. This is the neuroscience behind the advice for no contact. It is a deliberate strategy to stop feeding the loop with new data, allowing you to author your own ending and finally permit your brain to file the experience as complete, freeing up immense mental resources. You are a prolific dreamer, whether you remember it or not. The average person experiences 4 to 6 distinct dream episodes each night, totaling about 1.5 to 2 hours of dreaming. The reason we forget an estimated 95% of our dreams lies in brain chemistry. During REM sleep, levels of neurotransmitters crucial for forming long-term memories, like norepinephrine, are low. The brain is in a state optimized for experiencing dreams, not for storing them. You typically only remember a dream if you wake up during it or immediately after, allowing the fragile memory trace to be transferred to more stable cortical networks. You are not dreamless. You are an amnesiac filmmaker. Your behavior can be subtly programmed by words and concepts you are exposed to, even unconsciously, through a process called priming. In experiments, people who unscrambled sentences containing words like polite, respect, and patient later behaved more patiently. Those primed with words like rude, bother, and intrude were more likely to interrupt. Your brain picks up environmental cues and adjusts its behavioral settings accordingly, often without your awareness. The media you consume, the conversations you overhear, and the environments you frequent are all constantly priming your thoughts, attitudes, and subsequent actions on a subterranean level. We exhibit a time-inconsistent preference for immediate rewards, a tendency known as hyperbolic discounting. Faced with a choice between a smaller reward now and a larger reward later, our present self overwhelmingly favors immediate gratification, even at a steep future cost.
The limbic system, craving instant satisfaction, shouts down the logical prefrontal cortex that argues for deferred benefit. This bias underlies procrastination, poor financial savings, and addictive behaviors. To combat it, you must make the future reward more tangible, e.g., vivid visualization, or create systems that restrict immediate access to temptation, e.g., automatic savings deductions, thereby strengthening the hand of your future-oriented self. The human propensity for tribalism is activated with minimal provocation, manifesting as the in-group bias. Simply dividing people into arbitrary groups, Team A and Team B, is enough to trigger favoritism toward one's own group members and distrust or derogation of the outgroup. This instinct, rooted in our evolutionary need for cooperative coalitions, is the foundation of sports rivalries, nationalism, and workplace factions. The frightening ease with which this bias activates highlights a fundamental challenge. To make fair, individual-based judgments, we must consciously override a deep-seated neurological impulse to categorize and prefer us over them. You may believe an idea is your original thought when in fact you encountered it before and forgot the source. This memory error is called cryptomnesia, or hidden memory. The brain stores the content of an idea and its source as separate pieces of information. Sometimes the content is retained vividly while the source tag is lost. The idea then emerges into consciousness without its attribution, leading you to believe it is a novel insight. This is a common cause of unintentional plagiarism and arguments over who first suggested something. It is a humbling reminder that true originality is rare. Our creativity is often a process of recombination and forgotten influence. The subjective experience of time accelerates as you age. One theory for this, the proportional theory, posits that as you get older, each year represents a smaller fraction of your total life, so it feels subjectively shorter. However, a more neurologically grounded explanation involves novelty. Childhood and young adulthood are filled with firsts, new experiences encoded in rich detail, creating dense memory landmarks. As life becomes more routine, fewer novel memories are formed. The brain has fewer unique markers to segment time, causing years to blur together. To psychologically slow down time, you must intentionally seek novelty, new routes, new skills, new experiences. Social rejection and physical pain share overlapping neural pathways. When you experience heartbreak, exclusion, or sharp criticism, your brain activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, a region also involved in processing the distressing component of physical pain. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. For our profoundly social ancestors, exile from the tribe was akin to a death sentence. The brain, therefore, treats social threats with a similar urgency as physical injury. This is why rejection hurts in a literal neurochemical sense. Intriguingly, studies have shown that acetaminophen, a physical pain reliever, can reduce the neural and self-reported distress of social rejection.
The brain's campaign to justify your past choices is relentless and systematic. This deeper look at the choice-supportive bias reveals a three-pronged psychological immune response. First, it engages in selective recall, making the positive attributes of your chosen path more accessible in memory while burying its flaws. Second, it reconstructs the rejected alternatives, amplifying their disadvantages and minimizing their appeal. Third, it seeks out new information that confirms the wisdom of your decision while dismissing contradictory evidence. This isn't a conscious dishonesty. It's an automatic defense against the corrosive effects of regret and doubt. While this bias promotes contentment with your life's trajectory by crafting a coherent, positive narrative, it also fossilizes your perspective. It can close your mind to the possibility that an alternative path might have been, or might still be, superior, embedding a subtle resistance to change within your very recollection of events.
Social synchrony occurs beneath conscious awareness through the chameleon effect, our unconscious mimicry of the posture, gestures, speech patterns, and mannerisms of our interaction partners. Driven by the mirror neuron system, this subtle mirroring serves as a powerful social glue. When you mimic someone, even without realizing it, you non-verbally signal rapport and shared understanding. The person being mimicked perceives you as more likable, empathetic, and trustworthy. Interestingly, individuals with a higher natural propensity for this mimicry tend to have more successful and fluid social interactions. It is a foundational element of building connection. Resisting the impulse to match another's posture or tone can inadvertently create social friction, while flowing with it can be your brain's autopilot for building bridges of empathy and cooperation. In a world saturated with sound, true silence has become a rare commodity and a potent cognitive resource. Research indicates that periods of silence, more than relaxing music or ambient noise, can trigger significant physiological and neurological benefits. 2 minutes of silence can be more calming to the brain and body than listening to so-called relaxing music. This is because silence allows the brain's default mode network, DMN, to engage fully. The DMN activates when you are not focused on the external world. It is crucial for integrating experiences, consolidating memories, engaging in self-reflection, and fostering creative insight. Even if pleasant, constant auditory input prevents this essential internal processing. Silence, therefore, is not an absence, but a space for restoration and integration, a necessary condition for the mind to make sense of itself and its experiences. Ownership itself imbues an object with greater subjective value, a cognitive distortion known as the endowment effect. Once you possess something, your estimation of its worth inflates simply because it is yours. In experiments, participants given a mug or a chocolate bar immediately demanded significantly more money to part with it than others were willing to pay to acquire it. This effect intertwines with loss aversion and self-concept. The object becomes entangled with your identity. Letting go feels like a loss of a part of yourself. This bias explains why we cling to possessions we never use, hold plummeting stocks hoping for a rebound, and fill our homes with clutter we deem priceless, despite its objective market value. It is the ultimate confounding variable in any rational assessment of worth. After prolonged engagement in a patterned, visually intensive activity, be it Tetris, data analysis, or a skilled craft like sewing, you may begin to see those patterns when you close your eyes or in peripheral visualizations. This Tetris effect is a striking demonstration of neuroplasticity in real time. Your brain, optimizing itself for the task at hand, dedicates additional neural resources to processing that specific visual motor pattern, even during rest or sleep. It's a sign of the brain rewiring itself, creating stronger pathways for that activity. This principle extends beyond games. Surgeons may visualize procedures, composers hear melodies, and programmers see code structures. It serves as a powerful reminder that you are constantly shaping your brain's very mode of perception through your daily focused activities. The word free possesses a unique, almost irrational power over decision-making. The framing of free exploits our loss aversion, presenting a proposition with zero perceived risk. In one study, people overwhelmingly chose a lower quality chocolate that was free over a superior chocolate costing a few cents, even when they acknowledged the paid option was better. The free trigger bypasses careful cost-benefit analysis and activates a primal acquisition circuit. The risk of loss is eliminated, making the choice feel like a pure gain. Marketers use this masterfully with buy one, get one free offers or free shipping thresholds. Critically, the free item often clouds judgment about the actual cost or value of the primary purchase, acting as a powerful decoy that drives irrational economic behavior.
Your brain is a constant detective, trying to diagnose the source of your internal physiological states. The misattribution of emotion occurs when it picks the wrong clue from the environment. The classic bridge study is one example, but it happens daily. You might feel jittery from caffeine and a looming deadline, then snap at a colleague, attributing the arousal solely to anger at them. You might feel the warm glow of a sunny day and mistakenly attribute it to increased satisfaction with your job. The brain seeks a narrative for bodily sensations. Becoming adept at recognizing this involves pausing to audit your state. Is this feeling truly about this situation, or could it be fueled by hunger, fatigue, caffeine, lack of movement, or an unrelated stressor? Accurate emotional intelligence requires separating the signal of genuine reaction from the noise of physiological background static. Honesty is cognitively less expensive than deception. Lying requires a complex, multitasking mental operation. You must suppress the truth, construct a plausible alternative narrative, monitor the listener for signs of disbelief, remember the details of your fabrication, and maintain consistency, all while managing the emotional stress of deception. Truth-telling, by contrast, is often a simpler act of retrieval. Under cognitive load, when you are stressed, tired, distracted, or mentally overwhelmed, your brain may lack the spare processing power to construct and maintain a lie effectively. This is why people are more likely to tell the truth or slip into honesty under pressure or fatigue. This principle informs certain interrogation techniques and offers a personal insight. For unvarnished truth, sometimes the best time to ask a difficult question is when someone's cognitive defenses are already occupied or depleted. We possess a deep-seated need to believe we can influence outcomes, even when they are purely random. This illusion of control reduces the anxiety of helplessness in an uncertain world. People blow on dice, click elevator buttons repeatedly, believe their lucky shirt affects a sports game, and feel more confident in lottery numbers they choose themselves than in random ones. This illusion provides a comforting sense of agency. While mild superstitions are generally harmless, a strong illusion of control can lead to problematic gambling, poor financial decisions, overtrading stocks, and misplaced self-blame for random negative events. The brain prefers the narrative of, "I caused this," or "I can affect this," even if it's false, to the terrifying alternative of acknowledging utter powerlessness in the face of chance. It is profoundly difficult to predict our own future behavior when we are in a different emotional state. This empathy gap means that when you are calm, cold, you underestimate how you will act when hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or sexually aroused, hot, and vice versa. When sated, you pack a meager lunch, forgetting the ravenous hunger of 1 p.m. When calm, you vow never to yell during an argument, but in the heat of the moment, you do. Our brains fail at effective forecasting. To make better decisions, you must account for this gap. Don't shop for groceries when full. Don't send that email when angry. And crucially, practice self-compassion by recognizing that your past self in a hot state was operating under a different, compelling set of internal conditions that your current cold self struggles to fully comprehend.
Perceived scarcity creates immediate, powerful desire. The scarcity principle states that opportunities, goods, or information appear more valuable to us when their availability is limited. This isn't just basic economics, it's psychological reactance, our deep aversion to having our choices or freedoms restricted. Phrases like limited edition, last chance, or only 3 left trigger a primal fear of missing out, FOMO. The potential loss of the opportunity becomes the primary motivator, often overshadowing the item's actual utility or value. Marketers and salespeople create artificial scarcity to drive impulsive action. While you may logically know it's a tactic, the ancient limbic part of your brain interprets scarcity as a threat, compelling you to secure the resource before it's gone. Information is absorbed most deeply when it satisfies a pre-existing itch of curiosity. This is sometimes termed the Benjamin effect. If you've ever wondered how a microwave works and then looked it up, you'll remember the explanation of magnetrons far better than if someone had explained it to you unprompted. Curiosity creates a cognitive open loop, similar to the Zeigarnik effect, generating a mild tension that the brain is eager to resolve. When the answer arrives, it is integrated with high priority. This is the neurological basis of effective teaching and compelling storytelling. First, pose a question, highlight a mystery, or reveal a knowledge gap. A mind that is actively searching for a solution becomes a sponge, primed to receive and retain the information that closes the loop. We are notoriously bad at predicting how long future tasks will take, consistently underestimating the required time. This is the planning fallacy. We envision an ideal, uninterrupted scenario, ignoring potential complications, interruptions, and our own historical data. The solution is to adopt an outside view. Instead of imagining the steps from the inside, this report should take 2 hours. Ask, how long have similar tasks taken me or others in the past? The data usually tells a different story. A corollary is Hofstadter's law. It always takes longer than you expect, even when you take into account Hofstadter's law. A practical rule is to multiply your initial optimistic estimate by a factor, often 2 or 3, to arrive at a more realistic time frame. Inertia is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior, encapsulated in the default effect. When presented with a choice, the overwhelming majority of people will accept the pre-selected option. This is why opt-out organ donation systems have near universal participation rates, while opt-in systems struggle. It applies to software privacy settings, retirement plan enrollment, and subscription renewals. Making an active choice requires cognitive effort and willpower. Accepting the default is the path of least resistance. This gives immense, often invisible power to the choice architects, the people who set the defaults. They guide outcomes without issuing a single command. To truly exercise autonomy, you must consciously evaluate and frequently reject the default settings in your life, from technology to finances to personal habits. Nostalgia, once pathologized as a mental disorder, is now understood as a vital psychological resource. When we feel transient, lonely, or uncertain, our minds often drift to warmly remembered, rose-tinted moments from our personal past.
This isn't mere escapism. It's a form of self-therapy. Engaging in nostalgia strengthens our sense of self-continuity, reminding us we are the same person who was loved, experienced joy, and overcame past challenges. It increases feelings of social connectedness, imbues life with meaning, and can even make us more generous toward others. Looking at old photos or listening to music from a specific era is a legitimate coping mechanism that taps into an emotional reservoir of security and identity, boosting resilience in the present. A belief or expectation can initiate a chain of behaviors that makes the belief come true, a cycle known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you are bad at networking, the anxiety from that belief may make you act awkwardly and withdraw, leading to poor interactions that reinforce that belief. If a manager believes an employee is unmotivated, their lack of trust and reduced opportunities may demotivate the employee. The prophecy sets a physiological and behavioral cascade in motion. This is why mindset is not a trivial concept. It is a causal force. Your expectations for yourself and others don't just predict outcomes. They actively construct the social and performance reality in which those outcomes become more likely. Revisiting the doorway effect provides a deeper insight into your brain's filing system. It uses event boundaries, like walking through a doorway, ending a meeting, or starting a new chapter, to segment the continuous stream of experience into discrete episodes. Crossing a boundary signals to the brain that the previous context is closed. It then flushes the related contents of working memory to prepare for the new event. This is highly efficient for mental organization but causes the frustrating loss of transient intentions. To combat it, you can employ a cognitive tactic. As you cross the threshold, verbally or subvocally rehearse your goal, anchoring it to the new context. For example, say, "I'm going to the kitchen for the scissors," as you walk. This creates a stronger memory thread that can survive the transition. The pratfall effect holds a critical lesson for leadership. In a leader, perceived infallibility can create distance and foster a culture of fear in which mistakes are hidden. A leader who occasionally makes and openly acknowledges a minor, humanizing mistake or admits, "I don't know," leverages the pratfall effect to build trust, approachability, and psychological safety. This vulnerability demonstrates security, a growth mindset, and humanity. It invites collaboration and honest communication from the team. Perfection is a barrier. A well-placed, acknowledged pratfall is a bridge. It transforms a leader from an intimidating figurehead into a relatable, trustworthy guide, fundamentally changing the dynamics of followership and team cohesion. We have a powerful drive to appear consistent with our past statements, actions, and commitments. This consistency principle is a core pillar of influence. Once we make a small, voluntary public commitment, we often adjust our subsequent attitudes and behaviors to align with it, to avoid the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. This is why free trials are so effective. You've started using the service, so you're more likely to subscribe to be consistent with that initial action. It's why signing a pledge increases follow-through. The mechanism is powerful. Secure a small, visible commitment first, and the individual's own mind will pressure them to maintain consistency, making larger related commitments more likely. Our past actions become a prison of our own making, but one we willingly maintain. Humans possess a hypersensitive, dedicated neural system for gaze detection. You can feel when someone is staring at you because your brain is exquisitely tuned to detect eyes and the direction of gaze. This system operates so powerfully that even a stylized image of eyes can dramatically alter behavior. In experiments, posters featuring eyes, as opposed to neutral images,
led to a significant reduction in littering in a cafeteria and increased charitable donations. The feeling of being watched, even symbolically, engages our social monitoring networks, increasing self-awareness and pro-social behavior. We are hardwired to respond to the implied presence of an observer. It's a fundamental, evolutionarily old form of social regulation that promotes cooperation within groups. The simple addition of the word yet to a self-statement can catalyze a profound neurological shift. Saying, "I can't do this," is a fixed mindset declaration that shuts down effort and activates stress responses. Adding, "Yet, I can't do this yet," transforms it into a growth mindset statement. It frames the current inability as a temporary state on a path of learning. Neurologically, this small change can shift activity from the threat-sensitive amygdala toward the problem-solving prefrontal cortex. It turns a dead end into a process with a future. This linguistic hack, rooted in Carol Dweck's research, is one of the most powerful tools for fostering resilience, perseverance, and a love of learning in yourself and others. It's the difference between a conclusion and a continuum. A critical application of the bystander effect involves the strategic use of individuality. In an emergency, the diffusion of responsibility is the enemy of action. To shatter it, you must bypass the crowd and assign responsibility directly to one person. The technique is specific. Do not scream, "Someone help." Instead, use the power of one. Make direct eye contact, point if necessary, and issue a clear, direct command to a single individual. "You, in the red shirt, call 911 right now." Or, "You with the backpack, get the first aid kit from behind you." This breaks the spell of collective ambiguity and places 100% of the responsibility onto one person's conscious mind, dramatically increasing the chance of immediate help. Whether you are the victim or a bystander, this knowledge is imperative. Vulnerability, in the form of sharing a personal secret, is a potent catalyst for deep social bonding. This reciprocity of secrets works because disclosure acts as a gift of high trust. When you share something vulnerable, the recipient's brain experiences a powerful urge to reciprocate the level of intimacy to balance the social scales and reduce their own discomfort. This mutual, escalating exchange of personal information, reciprocal self-disclosure, synchronizes brain activity and releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It is the fast track to transforming an acquaintance into a confidant. Strategic, appropriate vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is a sophisticated social technology that builds alliance and intimacy by inviting others into your internal world. Your smartphone's mere presence, even if face down and silent, constitutes a cognitive brain drain. Studies demonstrate that simply having your phone within sight or easy reach reduces available working memory capacity and fluid intelligence. A portion of your finite attentional resources is perpetually allocated to not checking the phone, a state called cognitive leakage or brain drain. It is a constant, low-level reminder of the outside world, your social connections, and unmet tasks. For deep work or genuine rest, the phone must be in another room. Its physical proximity fragments your attention, preventing full cognitive immersion in the task or relaxation at hand. Your brain cannot commit fully when a portal to infinite distraction and obligation is within arm's reach. The neurochemistry of a hug is dictated by its duration. A brief, social pat hug is a formality. However, a hug lasting 20 seconds or more triggers a significant physiological cascade. This duration is key because it allows the parasympathetic nervous system to engage, signaling safety to the amygdala. This prompts the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which in turn reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, lowers blood pressure, and slows heart rate. We live in a time of high virtual connection, but often low physical co-regulation. A sustained 20-second hug is a profound, nonverbal form of mutual regulation, a direct biological intervention that calms the nervous system and reinforces social bonds in ways words cannot. You can actively hack your memory of an experience using the peak-end rule. Since your brain primarily stores the most intense moment and the final moment, you can engineer a more positive memory by deliberately crafting a good ending. After a stressful, difficult day, consciously end it with 15 to 20 minutes of a genuinely pleasant, calming activity, a walk, listening to a favorite piece of music, or a warm bath. Your brain will use that positive ending to color the entire day's memory. This principle is used in medicine, a gentle, slow end to a procedure, and customer service, a positive final interaction. You have the power to edit, to a degree, the story your mind will tell about today by controlling the final scene. Sleep is not passive downtime. It is the brain's essential state of active renovation and optimization, a period of intense neuroplasticity. During slow-wave sleep, the brain replays the day's experiences, strengthening important memory traces by reinforcing synaptic connections. In REM sleep, it makes novel, creative associations between disparate ideas. Simultaneously, it performs critical housekeeping, clearing metabolic waste products such as beta amyloid, associated with Alzheimer's disease, and pruning weak, irrelevant neural connections. You do not wake with the same brain you went to sleep with. You wake with a cleaned, optimized, and subtly reconfigured organ. Sleeping on a problem works because your brain is actively working on it, integrating and restructuring information beyond your conscious control. After exploring these 99 specific, observable quirks and mechanisms, we arrive at the profound and humbling frontier, the hard problem of consciousness. We can map the neural correlates of every thought, feeling, and perception. We can see which regions light up in response to love, fear, or the color red. Yet, we have no scientific explanation for how or why the electrochemical activity of roughly 86 billion neurons gives rise to subjective experience itself. Why does a specific neural firing pattern feel like the taste of chocolate, the ache of grief, or the luminous quality of being you? The brain is the hardware, but consciousness, the private inner movie, remains the inexplicable software. You are not just a brain. You are the universe's most profound mystery, experiencing itself. With that, allow that mysterious, complex, and wondrous system to rest. And there you have it. 100 glimpses into the glorious, messy, biased, and magnificent machine that is you. It's not perfect. It's riddled with shortcuts, haunted by ghosts of the past, and easily tricked. But it's also creative, adaptive, empathetic, and capable of understanding its own flaws. That's pretty incredible. The world outside is quiet now. The chatter in here, the curiosity, the wonder, maybe a bit of self-recognition. Let it settle. Your body is heavy. Your mind is perhaps a little more amazed at itself and a little more forgiving of its own strange wiring. Thank you for exploring these depths. Wherever you go tomorrow, You take this entire, bewildering universe with you, right between your temples. Now, let it rest. Let it dream. Let it rewire. Good night.